The Richard Roeper Show is brought to you by AmericanEagle.com Studios. The digital landscape is changing rapidly, and to compete in today's online business environment, you need an experienced partner. Since 1995, AmericanEagle.com has partnered with companies of all sizes, offering web design, web development, e-commerce, mobile apps, and digital marketing to drive your overall business's success, because they believe that today's online world is your online opportunity. Visit AmericanEagle.com to get started today. That's AmericanEagle.com. Okay, we're going to start the podcast today with a tribute to a fashion designer. We don't often talk about fashion design and designers on the podcast, but in this case, we be remiss not to mention the legendary Giorgio Armani, the great Italian designer who died at the age of 91 this week in a death confirmed in a statement by the Armani Group. They said he worked until his final days. The New York Times obituary says, a reluctant designer, but an instinctive empire builder, Mr. Armani initially became a household name by adapting a custom from traditional Neapolitan tailors. Androgynous, luxurious, positioned somewhere between the stuffy establishment attire popular among male executives and the prim skirt suits favored by professional women, Mr. Armani's designs offered an alternative form of power dressing. Very well done, New York Times. Wouldn't be able to tell you any of that, but I knew it just by looking at it, right? The Armani look. And of course, Giorgio Armani became King Giorgio in the world of pop culture, especially, I would say, in the 1980s, right? American Gigolo. A friend of mine sent me a text when word came through that Giorgio Armani had passed away, saying, did Richard Gere make Armani, or did Armani make Richard Gere? And I go, exactly. It was really both. If you go back and look at American Gigolo from 1980, famous for a star-making performance by Richard Gere, the song Call Me by Blondie on the soundtrack. It's not a great film. It's all about the look and the design, but it's kind of a bleak look at hedonism and fashion and power-hungry Los Angeles at the time. But Richard Gere does do a great job, and man, did he wear those suits! Sometimes at points in that movie, it just looked like it was just a commercial for Armani, the way he'd lean and strut and preen in those suits. But that was a big deal, the Armani suits in American Gigolo. And then Miami Vice came along about 4 years later and was a huge hit in the mid-'80s with Crockett and Tubbs, right? Wearing the Armani suits and Armani-inspired outfits, the big jackets and the pastel colors and the T-shirts under the blazers. And those of us who were in our early 20s at the time, I must confess, really got into that. Not so much the Richard Gere Armani suits, because that was way out of my budget, but you could get an Armani jacket or something that looked like an Armani jacket in these crazy colors. And we were all wearing the kind of baggy pants. And then, I don't think there's a photo. Probably grateful there's not a photo. But I know I had a purple jacket at one point, a purple sport coat. And you'd wear the white T-shirt underneath that, hit Bettingins on a Friday night, get those white Russians. You were happening at 22. You thought you were anyway, 24, whatever. Also, and I always found this fascinating, The Untouchables, 1987, Brian De Palma's gangster epic. And, I love The Untouchables. It's such a wildly entertaining, big gangster movie. A lot of it filmed right here in my hometown of Chicago, because if you go down like the LaSalle Street Canyon in Chicago, it looks, every time I walk down there, I think of The Untouchables, because it looks the same now as it did in the Prohibition era Chicago, the buildings and everything. But The Untouchables, and we had the Untouchables TV series, and everybody knows Elliot Ness versus Al Capone. And when it comes to The Untouchables movie, the accuracy pretty much starts and ends with there was an Elliot Ness and there was an Al Capone. And that's about it. A few other details here and there and some other characters based on real life figures from Chicago at the time. But it's really just, I would say, 90% fiction, including a lot of remember Jimmy Malone, Sean Connery got the best supporting actor. A lot of these characters they weren't really even composites. They were just fictional characters, and all the gunplay and the shootouts and the trial and I don't know. Some people say Capone might have beat somebody to death with a baseball bat. He was a horrible, horrible, monstrous human being, and it does drive me nuts a little bit sometimes in Chicago, where you see the Al Capone tour and stuff, and there's sort of a cartoonish embrace of Capone as this Chicago figure, and he was just, he was the devil in a fedora. And De Palma never made any other, and David Mamet, right? They never said, "Hey, this is a real serious look at that time in Chicago history." They were making a big, fun, star-studded, star-making gangster epic. And one of the cool things I thought, was that everybody's wearing Armani. 1930s, Armani inspired and Armani designed stuff. So when you go back and look at it, even if you just call up a still photo from the Untouchables, the feds and the cops are wearing Armani. The gangsters, Armani. They're the most stylish feds and cops and gangsters you've ever seen in your life. And also, oh gosh, we have to mention, this is again, talking about Giorgio Armani and the influence his fashion had in so many walks of pop culture. We have to mention the Bizarro Jerry episode of Seinfeld, which was actually, I think, would have been in the 90s. So it was still happening. So 80s and 90s, we should say. And that's when there is an actor comic, Steve Heitner is his name, but everybody knows him as Kenny Banya, right? The annoying comic. And in this episode, this is the episode, the Bizarro Jerry, where Kenny's got the suit, the Armani suit, but he's been working out. It doesn't fit him anymore, and he offers it to Jerry, much to Jerry's chagrin, really. Let's play a little audio of that.
Oh, no, it's Kenny Banya.
Who's he?
Oh, he's this awful comedian.
Hey, Jerry!
Hey, Kenny! Elaine, George.
Hi.
How's it going?
Great. I've been working out. Went from a size 40 to a 42.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm huge. Well, I'll leave you guys alone.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, Jerry, you know what just hit me? I was thinking, what size suit are you?
I'm a 40. Why?
I just got a brand new Armani suit, doesn't fit me anymore. You want it?
Well, I don't know if I...
Oh, come on. Why should it just sit in the closet?
An Armani suit?
Take the suit.
Well... Okay, I guess.
You gonna be home later?
Yeah.
I'll drop it off.
Hey, new suit.
Yeah, lucky me.
Been working out. He's huge, Banya. Soup and a sandwich is a meal. The Wolf of Wall Street, years later, 2013, Armani suits were featured. And, of course, you'd hear it for years, and you still hear it on the red carpet. Who are you wearing? Armani. Well, you're not supposed to ask who you're wearing anymore. You're telling me about the journey you're making with your outfit. But anyway, and of course, rappers mentioning Armani a million times, Jay-Z, et cetera, et cetera. So rest in peace to Giorgio Armani, left a lasting impression globally all over the world of pop culture. Speaking of globally and going overseas and all of that kind of stuff, we got a lot of these. It's film festival season, right? So you got Telluride, and you got Toronto is just around the corner, and Venice, which is a big one. We had Cannes a few months ago, but you're getting all these fall film festivals, and of course that sets off all kinds of talk about award season. But what I want to talk about with you guys are these standing ovations, because it's driving me nuts. Every year, every festival, we hear about these standing ovations and giant reports in the Twitter and the trades, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, and everybody else. Standing ovation for this film or that film. And then we see the actors and the director of the film, these beautiful theaters, and they're standing there and they're weeping because they're getting these standing ovations. And it's beautiful, and it's kind of cool that we still have a lot of that old Hollywood and international movie glamour with the red carpets and people wearing Armani. And these big premieres of films that most people are not going to get a chance to see, sometimes for a month, sometimes for as long as a year. But the standing ovation is kind of bullshit in terms of like what it actually means about the film. And I'm a little bit cynical and skeptical. I'm not saying they don't occur. They do. And there are people there now timing them because that's become a story. I'm just saying that when I hear that films are getting standing ovations of 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 minutes, I'm saying, why and how? And I wonder if sometimes there are some publicists or some people with vested interest in these movies who keep the applause going. Because think about it for a second. Take a moment with me, my friends, and think about a standing ovation So at the 2025 Venice Film Festival, Frankenstein from Del Toro, I love him as a director. Jacob Elordi, Oscar Isaac, and they said it got a 14-minute standing ovation. Dwayne Johnson, everybody's talking about his work in The Smashing Machine, 15 minutes. Amanda Seyfried received a 15-minute standing ovation for a film called The Testament of Anne Lee. So several films at the Venice Film Festival this year got ovations past 10 minutes. And, you think about that, clapping here right now. And if you tried to clap for a minute, you'd be exhausted. And I've been to concerts and Broadway productions and something like Rent, I remember seeing and standing and applauding, and probably 2 minutes of a standing ovation. Then the cast comes out, and curtain call, or you see Oasis. That's the big, reunion, right? And you get standing ovations for songs and certainly for encores, but they don't go on for 15 minutes, man. I mean, just going on and on for that long. I looked up the top Cannes Film Festival standing ovations through the years. And for example, in 2018, Happy as Lazzaro got a 15-minute standing ovation. That's an Italian, kind of a magical realism drama. About 10 years ago, I think it was the Neon Demon, it was called, which was this art house horror film with Elle Fanning. And in 2016, the Neon Demon got a standing ovation of 17 minutes at the Cannes Film Festival. And it's kind of glossy trash if you actually see the film. And it didn't get good reviews, kind of mixed reviews. Some people thought it was daring and bold and had a commentary on the fashion world, and others thought it was just exploitative and garbage. It made like less than $4 million. The all-time record is Pan's Labyrinth, a great film, of course. 22 minutes, Fahrenheit 9/11. That's the Michael Moore documentary. Got a 20-minute standing ovation. Mud, which is a great film from 2012, got an 18-minute standing ovation. But again, Jesus, don't put too much stock. First of all, I don't know if people care that much. I mean, I guess I do because we're talking about it, because I'm just amazed by the length of these standing ovations. And it just seems artificial to me when if people are, I can't imagine if, even if I loved the film and the stars and director were there, of course I'll stand and applaud. I think, great work. But I think after about 3 minutes, man, I'd be out of there. I guess you'd have to, excuse me. And then you'd be, I don't know, would you get booed then for leaving the standing ovation? Segueing to another topic I wanted to talk about in terms of viewing events. I talked about this a little bit on the radio this week. For those of you in Chicago, actually anywhere you're at, because you can go online. In recent months, I've joined my old friend Bob Surratt on WGN, a legendary station here in Chicago where I've worked before. 7:20 a.m. or again, you can listen online. And Bob's the morning man there. And once a week, I join him and we talk about kind of a lot of the similar things we talk about on the podcast, but also a lot of, more serious Chicago news issues as well. But we were talking this week about the best place to watch a sporting event, because Bob's a huge Cubs fan, huge baseball fan. I think you guys know I'm a big sports fan. White Sox, the Bears are going to be playing Monday Night Football. I'm recording this on a Thursday. We're going to pop it to you guys probably on Friday. And we've got Eagles, Cowboys. So by the time you're hearing this, you'll know what happened. Wow, wasn't that a game? Can you imagine? Can you believe that one play? Wow, the second half was something. But it's interesting because I came up in the era where, you got a game of the week on baseball game of the week, and you get a couple of NFL games. It was very exciting. And then Monday Night Football became a huge thing in the 70s, which eventually, over the years, we got cable and we got ESPN and we got Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football and college games on off days and all that kind of stuff. And now, once the football season, this is a great time of year for us sports fans, because you got your college football and your NFL, and you've got baseball, kicking into gear. It's the playoff drive, and baseball and football, my two favorites. But pretty soon, before you know, we're going to be having basketball and hockey and all that. All the quadrants going, and soccer, and many other things happening. But it's interesting when it comes to watching stuff, because that too has evolved and mushroomed and grown in bigger and sometimes better ways. So now you have this tradition. And this started, 15, 20 years ago, at least, probably before that sometimes, where if a team was in the playoffs on the road, they'd open up the arena or the stadium or the ballpark for people to sit there and watch it on the big screen, right? I know the Blackhawks did that at the United Center in the 2010s when they were in the playoffs. Now, when the Cubs were in the World Series in 2016, when they were at Cleveland, they did not open Wrigley Field because they thought, for security reasons and everything, it'd be just too tough to to make that work, although fans would still gather outside in what is known as Gallagher Way. But now you have these big outside the arena viewing things, Madison Square Garden, where you saw in recent years the Knicks and Rangers, when they host playoff parties, they have them on the outdoor plaza. You get these giant video boards, I should say. It'd be kind of cool if there were giant wooden boards, but I don't know what that would be for. But the big video boards, you know what I mean? And then you have Maple Leaf Square for Toronto Maple Leafs, the Deer District in Milwaukee, Thrive City, I think they call the plaza outside the arena, the Chase Center Arena for Golden State games, et cetera, et cetera. So you could gather outside, and then sometimes teams will have parties inside the stadiums and watch parties. You can watch it. You also have the college bars, in different towns. Like here in Chicago, there are certain bars. It's an Iowa Hawkeyes bar or Ohio State Buckeyes bar. Michigan State has their own bars, and that's kind of cool. And then there's the Experience Sports Bar. Cosm is the company. I think they do these immersive. I haven't seen these in person yet, but maybe you've seen some of the stuff on TV where fans are in these sports bars, but it's like a 360-degree dome, and you get it almost feels like you're at the game, I guess, is the idea. And people say that's really cool. Although sidebar, I haven't seen the Sphere either, and I know friends of mine who have seen concerts there say it's amazing. They, you probably heard they're doing the Wizard of Oz at the Sphere with all this kind of digitized improvements, and they drop plastic apples or some shit when they're shaking the apple tree. I haven't seen it, but I will say this. The still photos I've seen from the Sphere where they show the Wizard of Oz as is, and then the enhanced version. The enhanced version looks like shite, as they often do when they mess around with it. But, if people are going to go see the Wizard of Oz, 90 years or whatever since it came out in this new version, that's great. But talking about sporting events, it's interesting because, first of all, I think it's a generational thing. Obviously, when you're younger, it's more fun to go to the bars and watch games. For me, if I'm really, really into a game and a team, I want to watch it at home, either by myself or with one other person, and we're all on text threads with our fellow fans, because we all know more than head coaches and analysts who have been in the games for 30 years. We know because we're fans. But I really want to watch the game, and especially with football. It's such a TV sport because of all the angles and the replays and all that kind of great stuff you get now. I'll go to one Bears game a year if I can, and it's really cool going to Soldier Field. And it's great going to college games in particular too, but especially, and it gets colder too for those of us that don't dig that. So it's just fun to watch at home. If you go to a viewing party, whether it's at a bar, whether it's at your friend's house, whether you have people over, it's immediately going to be as much about the party as it is about the ball game. It's just, you can't help it. You're at a bar and the game's on, everyone's cheering and everything. A lot of times you can't hear the announcers. Maybe you don't want to, but then you're ordering the wings, and then you're going to get a pitcher of beer, and then you're talking. You got to talk. People are talking at the table, and you miss the play. So to me, it's like how much you're into the game. I have no interest in going to one of these giant outdoor viewing parties where the game is being played 500 miles away, but it's fun to watch all that stuff. But overall, I still think the best place to watch the game, if you don't have a ticket, is home. All right, home stretch. After the break, we're going to talk about Portillo's, and then I got a couple of reviews for you. All right, it's time to tell you about Portillo's, the greatest single fast casual cuisine experience you're ever in your life. Let's talk about the hot dogs and all the famous Chicago ingredients. They'll do it for you, so you don't have to worry about getting it wrong. That includes the poppy seed bun. Then we can talk about the Italian beef, the sausage, and the fries, the salad, the chicken, you name it, all topped up, of course, with the legendary Portillo's chocolate cake. It's fast casual. That means it's better than fast food. You can sit down if you go to one of the restaurants, but it's still super casual. And you can order anywhere in the country via Portillos.com. That's Portillos.com. Once again, Portillos.com. Ask your friends from Chicago about it. Portillos.com.
My name is Ned Sampson. I am your new editor-in-chief.
Have you read this paper?
Uh-huh.
How do you think it compares to any other paper?
It sucks. But we are going to make it better.
Not again. I'm not agreeing to any of this. I will make this unusable.
Use that.
Okay, that's a little bit of audio from the paper on Peacock. You've probably heard about this. This is the spinoff of The Office. So some of the same people who are behind The Office, one of my favorite shows of all time, are also behind the paper. And the conceit here is that it's the same documentary crew that followed the employees of Dunder Mifflin around for nearly a decade have now been given a new assignment. And it's kind of amazing that this documentary crew has even been given a new assignment because it took them 10 years to do one documentary series. Remember, it was called An American Workplace, The Office, An American Workplace, the mockumentary within the documentary, within the documentary, within the mockumentary. But anyway, so the crew from The Office is now in Toledo following around the staff of the Toledo Truth Teller, a once great Midwestern paper that employed hundreds of reporters and broke important stories and had their own printing presses right there in the basement of the building bearing its name, but is now on life support and is understaffed, and it uses a lot of wire services and is all about clickbait, and they're even sharing floor space with the toilet paper company. That's the premise of the paper. I thought it was pretty terrific. It kind of hits close to home to me, because of course I worked for the Chicago Sun-Times, which was still is a great newspaper. There's still a lot of great people there, but times have changed there a lot. I took a buyout about 6 months ago, and a lot of the problems and issues they're dealing with at the Toledo Truth Teller, I could relate to. What I liked about this, it got a great ensemble cast, and it does do the mockumentary style, and there are some references to The Office, little Easter eggs, and also the character of Oscar Martinez is actually back now. He has now, Oscar, who of course, was an accountant at Dunder Mifflin, has now taken a job as an accountant at the company, the Toledo Truth Teller. So we do get that one direct reference and character. The rest is more just sort of obtuse and vague, but it's cool to see Oscar Nunez as Oscar Martinez back, and then a whole new batch of characters, some of them kind of similar to counterparts at The Office, but it's a standalone thing. You got your possible romances, but obviously the workplace has changed a lot in the 20 years since Dunder Mifflin, and they were doing a lot of wrong things even in the 2000s context back then. But what I also like about the paper is that it's not overly cynical, just as The Office wasn't. Yeah, it's dark and sometimes, paints a bleak picture of people working at an industry that has seen better days, but it also has this real kind of joy for journalism. One of my favorite parts of it is that they occasionally show excerpts from, again, we're talking about a documentary within the mockumentary, but there was a 1971 documentary about this paper, and the great Tracy Letts plays the publisher in these black and white scenes talking about, journalism in the 70s. And I have hope for the paper. To say is it as good as The Office? Well, nothing is going to be really. But I think it can stand alone. It's already been renewed for a second season. So check out the paper on Peacock for a very different type of viewing experience. I'm also recommending Task on HBO. I'm not thrilled with that title because it's on Task. It sounds like something you'd be given to do at Dunder Mifflin.
There's been a spate of home invasions. They want me to put together a task force.
No, it's not a great time.
No, I don't have any choice.
Time now for traffic on the news. KYW News.
Where's the money?
You're the ones that's been causing all the problems, huh?
I'm gonna take their money so we can have a better life.
Hey, Dad.
So you think you could tell?
We need to find this crew.
You could still go home. Maybe if I wanted to go home, I don't know the way no more.
But Task is short for Task Force. I don't know why they just call it Task Force. So this is a 7-episode crime drama from Brad Inglesby, who gave us Mayor of Easttown. It actually exists in that same universe. There's no characters or like the paper with The Office, but we see a couple of quick references to Easttown. So it's set in that same world, but we're in the working class suburbs of Philadelphia, specifically Delaware County. And Mark Ruffalo is one of our best actors. And boy, he really leans into his character here. He's playing Tom Brandis, who's a priest turned FBI agent, but he's an FBI agent who's well past whatever prime he might have had. And it looks like he was always more of a behind the scenes, behind the desk type of paper pusher guy. He's 60 and looks at least that old. He kind of shuffles about. He drinks too much. He's got a lot of tragedy in his past. And his basic job now is to go to job fairs and put out the little flyers and stuff and tell people about careers in the FBI. But then he gets put in charge of a task force investigating a string of home invasions and a missing kid. It's kind of a sad sack task force. There's only so much money for this particular investigation. So he gets a team of inexperienced fellow investigators. One's a state trooper, one comes from a police background, and they join him on this task force and they try to figure out what's going on. And there's these robberies that are happening. It's actually this biker gang that deals drugs is being robbed by some sort of Robin Hood, if you will. And then it just takes us deep into these characters. An actor by the name of Tom Pelphrey, who's really good. He plays the guy who's leading the crew, robbing the drug dealers. He's got a lot of tragedy in his past. So this is very gritty, very dark, very violent, really well done. It has, I mentioned, 7 episodes, I think I mentioned. And it's just the right arc for this because it has the kind of mood that Mare of Easttown had, where sometimes you're not getting a lot of story development. You're getting more character development, but man, it's really well done. And it's got all those Shakespearean themes of family and guilt and revenge and vengeance and trust and forgiveness and double crossing, you name it. But it's kind of a classic true crime, dark series. HBO is still the best at doing those. So Task on HBO for lighter fare. Go with The Paper on Peacock. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk again soon.